We're proud members of the Sun Belt Conference, and this conference, it is on the rise. I think this event is living proof of that. I think Commissioner Benson and his staff do a tremendous job with this event. I believe that this league is really positioned for the future to be one of the top group of 5 conferences. And I think if you look at our bowl record last year, 4-2, we were proud to be one of those wins. If you look at the level of coaches that's in our league and the talent that they're bringing in, I really think this has the makings of being a special season. We're heading into year 3. And I continue to grow personally as our football program does. Sitting here a year ago, the expectations have seriously risen from 2016 to going into the 2017 season. The 2016 was a special season for Troy football. We won 10 games, won the Dollar General Bowl championship, ranked in the top 25, set a school attendance record. But now we've got to flip the switch, and we had the biggest turnaround in college football, going from 15 to 16. We've got to flip the switch and start focusing on 2017. What we didn't, all those accomplishments are great. What we didn't accomplish last year was winning a conference championship, and we had the opportunity to do that. We lost 2 of our last 3 games, and now our guys, as we start camp on Sunday, have that singular focus. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
We have a microphone.
Coach, talk about opening camp this weekend.
Yeah.
How have y'all taken advantage of the new rules that let people come in early and with doing away with 2-a-days? And second question, while I have the mic, what if you had to pick out 1 or 2 things that was the difference in 2015 and 2016? Okay.
First question is our summer school ends on Wednesday, and then we're going to bring our guys into camp on Sunday. We're actually going to practice on the first day. We're not actually changing a whole lot with the new rules. We only did 2-a-days last year. So obviously with the new rule, we won't do any this during this preseason camp. We've always given our guys a day off. Every Sunday we've given them a day off. We try to give the staff as much of that day off as well. We'll continue to do that. We probably won't use all 29 of our practice opportunities leading into the first game. So, you know, I think we brought them in 1 day earlier than what was allowed under the previous rules. So I think we've probably been ahead of the curve as far as that goes. And then if you look at some of the differences between 15 and 16, I think the first thing that really comes is I'm not sure that from a talent standpoint we were better. I'm not trying to undersell that at all. We were better in 2016 than we were in 2015. But we probably overachieved a little bit. And I think one of the biggest lessons for me as a head coach as we went through that season was the importance of chemistry. You know, not chemistry as far as the whole team is concerned, but really the connection that was made in those position group. And I really felt like that was a major reason why we were able to win some close games down the stretch. If you're just talking about on the pure football perspective, the biggest difference is the takeaways we got defensively. You know, we were one of the top teams in the country in turnover margin, and that probably allowed us to make the jump as much as anything.
Coach, you talked about increased expectations with your program. How much stock do you put in the preseason poll? Do you ever look at that, or is that motivation for your kids or not?
Yeah, we look at it. I think if somebody says they don't look at it, I would find that false. It's all over social media, and we got to be on it for recruiting anyway. So we do. I think it's a compliment to what we accomplished last year. I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with what we're getting ready to start on Sunday. But we want to be. I mean, that's an expectation that we want to have each and every year, that we want to contend for a conference championship. I think that should be the expectation at Troy. And I think there's a couple things. When you have expectations, you can kind of undersell yourself, or you can go and approach them about meeting them head on, and that's the approach that we're going to take. Is, hey, we're picked to finish second in our league. We won 10 games last year. The expectation level has risen in our program, and now we got to go and meet those expectations head on. I think a huge benefit for us is our season opener. We play Boise State right out the gate. And I think that's the preeminent program in the group of 5. If you look over the course of the last 5 to 10 seasons, those guys have done a tremendous job. And we're fortunate to kick off the season against them at Boise. They'll return the trip in 2018 when they come to us. But that game, that's going to be that's a huge carrot to dangle during preseason camp, because we can't afford complacency, because if we're not ready to go, if we're not ready to hit on all cylinders, we can get embarrassed in that season opener.
Coach, Brandon was a kid that wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school. He's really exploded since he's been in your program. Can you talk about what makes him special as a quarterback?
Yeah, well, I think as you've seen, he's matured. As he's matured off the field, his in-game decision-making has improved. Physically, he has the tools. He's a big guy. You can see him here. He's 6'2 plus, 225 pounds. The thing that probably separates him from a lot of Division I quarterbacks is his release. He gets the ball out extremely fast. We led the country in sacks allowed last year, and our offensive line did a good job. We had a third-round draft pick in Tony Garcia that was our left tackle, but probably the person most responsible for that was Brandon Silvers. I mean, he got the ball out extremely fast. Heading into this year, he's a 4-year starter, and this is a league of really good quarterbacks, and several of them are here. And he was named preseason first-team all-conference. For him to repeat as first-team all-conference, he's going to have to raise his level of play, because I know those other guys will. I know they're well coached, and what he has to do is he's got to play at a consistent level in those big games, and I think he's ready to take that next step.
Hey, Coach, so I know that you're probably at the top of the conference in terms of not just experience, but amount of production returning on offense. Do you see that as a big advantage? And also, do you think it'll be enough of an advantage to sort of compensate maybe that turnover luck not being as good this season?
Well, here's what I think. I think talent is more important than experience. But if you have experienced talent, you got a chance to be special. So we've got a lot of experience coming back. Almost all of our every rushing yard is back. I think every reception, with the exception of one guy that had 10 catches, is back. All our passing yardage are back. So as far as production, we've got almost all of our offensive production back. And we were close to the top of the league last year. Now, with all that being said, we've got tons of room for improvement. And if you look at it, we've got to be more explosive in the passing game. Our yards per attempt was not good enough. We've got to be able to run the football against really good run defenses. We weren't able to do that. And we got to be able to finish games. If you look at it, we have an opportunity to win the conference championship at Georgia Southern. We got the ball with 2 minutes to go, and we don't go. All we got to do is score a touchdown. We win the game. Win the conference. We're not able to get it done. So we do have some pieces coming back. I feel like that we will be significantly better. I think this is without a doubt going to be our best offensive football team that we've had in my 3 years here. But we've got some room for improvement to make. We've got to have and there's some question marks. We got question marks in our interior of our O-line. We got to find somebody that can run the football to partner up with Chun where he doesn't get tired down the stretch. So we got some question marks, but we do have the opportunity to be an upper level offense.
Hey, you were 5-0 in Sun Belt going to the Arkansas State game last year. I think 7-3 at halftime. That game's at the end of your season this year. How important is that one for you guys?
Well, I think it's huge. That was I appreciate you bringing that up. Though I'm trying to take that out of my memory, but no, I'm just kidding. But that was the worst half of football we played all year. And really, it was 7-3. We come out of halftime, and they scored on a fake punt that we didn't do a very good job defending, and really, as coaches, should have taken a timeout, never allowed it to happen. Then we have a sack fumble that they pick up and run in for a touchdown, and then we just didn't respond very well. We played a really poor second half that game, and Blake and Arkansas State really took it to us. And so that's the game we play last this year. I hope that we position ourselves where that game's important at that time. I feel confident they will. I hope that we take care of our business, and when we make that trip to Jonesboro, there's something on the line in that game.
Coach, you landed 3 on the first all-team Sun Belt, 9 overall, first and second team. What does that say just about the level of talent that you have on this team this year? Well,
I think it says that some guys had some really good years last year. I think that we have some guys that are deserving without question. My hope is that at the end of the season we have that same number or possibly more. But the good thing about us, and especially at our offensive skill positions and our defensive skill positions, is we're going to have a lot of competition. And I think if you look at the programs that annually contend for championships and annually that don't have fall-offs, they're the guys that have extreme competition at those positions. We have those at the skill positions. We have that at defensive tackle. We don't have it throughout our whole football team yet. But those guys that are on those preseason honors, they're going to be challenged every day in their room, from with the rare exception to keep up on that pace You know, our guys, they're going to get beat out by some of our younger guys in our program.
Hey, Coach, I think you guys probably have the best secondary in the conference. What's it like knowing you have that safety net on the back end, and then what does that allow you to do as far as being more creative in the front seven?
Well, we've got all our secondary returning, and Cedarius Rookert is a safety for us, Kris Weatherspoon. Both of those guys started every game last year. I think they're two of the better safeties in our league. But we didn't defend the pass great last year. We were mid to bottom of the conference in passing yardage allowed. What we did last year that really set us apart is we got interceptions, created turnovers, and also we were able to put pressure on the quarterback. So we're going to be able to cover better. We got some young guys that are coming to our program that is true freshmen that are going to come in and compete for playing time right away. But to make their life easier, we've got to be able to put some pressure on that quarterback. And we've done that in the first 2 years. And now that's probably the biggest question mark on our football team, definitely on defense, is how are we going to go about it? You know, whether it's schematically or whether it's guys winning one-on-one battles up front, how are we going to get pressure on that quarterback?
Anybody else?
And then with Kris Weatherspoon specifically, I feel like even though he was second team all-conference preseason, it seems like he's still underrated. I mean, why do you think that is?
Well, I would agree. I think he is underrated. And I think if you look at it, defensive backs are sometimes hard to evaluate, and especially when you're putting together all-conference teams, so much is stat-driven, you know, and not all the times are your best players, especially on defense, necessarily stat-driven because as an offensive play caller myself, you know, I'm trying to steer clear of some of those strengths on defenses. And but he's a guy that is a physical presence in the back end, does a really good job coming down and making tackles in the box. He sets the tone for us on defense. I think he is an underrated player. I think he's a guy that has a ton of potential, probably a guy that this time next year will be in the NFL camp.
One more for you, Coach. You mentioned
no problem.
Trying to get some breather for Jordan Chung in the late game. Have you had any clarity yet in terms of who's going to be that person to spell him, or is that still getting figured out?
No, I think we've got a group there that competed all spring. They're going to compete all fall. I think when you start that conversation, we've got a big back, 250-pound running back, Josh Anderson, who did a good job at times last year. We've got a transfer from Memphis, Jamarius Henderson, that has elite ability. He's got to prove it in a game, had some flashes as a true freshman at Memphis. And then we've got a kid, B.J. Smith, who was really consistent for us and played well down the stretch, particularly in the bowl game last year. And then Jabir Fry, who was a first-team all-conference kickoff returner. He's coming back off an ACL injury, and he's explosive, probably the fastest guy on our football team.
Coach, with adding a conference championship game, how is that going to change things for you? How much do you play that up? How much do you keep it in the back of your mind?
Well, I think what the conference championship game does when we played in 2018, I think it further legitimizes us as a conference. You know, I think every Division I conference now is going to play a conference championship game. I like the uniqueness of ours being on a college campus. I know if we were fortunate enough to host it at Troy, we feel really good about having a great crowd and creating an atmosphere that's worthy of a championship game. I think it's just another opportunity, another life experience for the student athlete. And at the end of the day, that's why the athletic directors and the CEOs in this conference chose to make that decision, is for the student athlete experience. That it?
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.